Today we are talking Scott McCloud's three-dimensional destroy! Exclamation point, exclamation point. This was originally a 2D comic. I believe it was presented at a larger size, like oversized comic, 32 pages. So the story goes, and Scott McCloud does reference this on his website. Basically, he was taking a break from drawing Zot at the time. This comic is from the mid-'80s. And someone had referred to Marvel Comics as being no plot, all fight. And he said, basically in the most 1980s way possible, hold my beer. And he went and drew a comic which is two people fighting across New York City for 32 pages with very little plot. I mean, they're fighting over a girl. That much is pretty obvious early on. It's hinted at, but it's the only plot point, only thing coming close to a plot point in the entire book. And that's fine, because the point of this book is indeed the spectacle of this destruction across New York City. It's pretty awesome. In fact, here's the warning label. This comic book is exactly what you think it is. 32 pages of meaningless, overblown violence, mayhem, and destruction, plus one naughty word. Yes, there is a swear word in here. I forget which one, but it's there. Ray Zone did the conversion on this. Like the Batman 3D book, it is black and white, but that black is sort of that brownish, lighter grayish color, and that certainly helps. He does do a lot of the light box work, where the lettering is on the top on the page itself, and you look deeper in. Something like this, a simple page to establish New York City. There's all sorts of layers here in the waves. At least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 layers of just the waves to dig you into the city. So this is the city, and someone's screaming, destroy, destroy, destroy. And one by one, we see the destruction happen. There's one big guy. Here comes Captain Maximum to fight the guy who's screaming destroy. It's obviously, they know each other, and the fight continues. It's very funny, darkly funny in a way. Here's a fist popping out pretty good. That pops away out of the light box. But Ray Zone matches the intensity of Scott McCloud's art on this. There is a lot of stuff popping out and going back. Here's another hand that pops out. He has to work overtime to put in all the layers, especially because Scott McCloud draws all the backgrounds in this book, which I love. I love an artist who's not afraid of drawing the backgrounds, even if they're simpler versions of the buildings like you see back there with the windows sketched in. I mean, there's a lot of them. Not exactly sketched in, but you don't see every architectural detail. You have some of these double-page spreads, which sometimes can be difficult in 3D comics, to be honest. The wider the image is, sometimes the eyes take longer to adjust to it. And oddly enough, in a similar way, sometimes tall, narrow panels are a little more difficult because you have to kind of crunch your eyes into that. You don't have as much room to work left and right with the red and cyan coloring, I guess. I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud here. Here's the character bouncing off the Empire State Building. Pretty good drawing of the Empire State Building, too. Bouncing into the page and then back out of the page, over the border, into the next panel, to the ground. Just lots of cool stuff. This is meant to be all violence. Here we're dealing with the Chrysler Building, where he's actually picking up the top of the Chrysler Building to then throw it around. Statue of Liberty doesn't survive this. I mean, just destroy, destroy, destroy. By the way, these destroys are all on separate layers, going deeper and deeper as he goes into the panel. This is a fun, weird, one-off book, the kind of thing you just don't see these days anymore. But it is awesome, and it is made for a 3D conversion like this. I'm glad they did it, because it works. It works on every possible level. Again, as I always say, anytime you have destruction, rubble, that kind of stuff flying out into the air, flying at the reader, it really helps build an atmosphere. I mean, my finger wants to go behind all these rocks I know they're on the page, but as I'm wearing my glasses recording this, I just want to put my finger underneath the rocks, and it doesn't work that way. But this is getting near the big finale as we're past the halfway point. I guess we're only on page 17, I think that says. So we're getting near the finale, or 19. We're getting near the finale. Things are getting bigger. The characters are getting bigger on the panel. We're going to end in an Akira-like explosion, I'm sure you can imagine, as we go through this. There's a lot of work done with the lettering, making sure the letters are all on different levels, different layers on there. Lots of stuff going back. This is just a very fun book. Lots of destroy. If Walt Simonson created the word doom. This is Scott McCloud saying, I want the word destroy with 2 exclamation points. Usually in comics, when you have multiple exclamation points at the end of a sentence, or exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, you usually do it in groups of 3, not 2. It just helps it stand out more, sort of a trademark usage of it here in the comic for destroy to be 2. There's a big panel. That is a really cool panel. This is a really cool panel just because it is a top-down view of the city. So you have this sort of, I guess it's 1-point perspective, and that point would be somewhere over here-ish, and everything juts out from there. And as you look into the page, as I move my head left and right, you can see everything kind of moving along with it, which is kind of cool. And even the speed lines here of him flying up, that has a great 3D effect. He really did the work to make planes that are not just flat, but they go in. So you can see the buildings going down into the page as you look at it. It is impressive. It makes it worth it to draw all those backgrounds. I can only imagine what Rayzone had to do on a page like this, especially using mid-'80s technology. It's not like he was using Photoshop to do the 3D effects on this. I'll show you the big explosion here at the end. There you go. That is the ultimate in explosions. And this was, I think, before Akira. I'm not sure exactly what years Akira was published. This book is 1980, I want to say 5-ish or so. And in the end, by the way, I was noticing this because I'm living in northern New Jersey. I've driven into New York City. I've taken the train into New York City often enough. I have some idea of the layout. And as I'm following this book, I'm like, does that really make sense? Would you really go flying from here to there? And it seemed to all make sense. And then he gets to the end, and here on the inside back cover, he explains the route of destruction. He'll map it out for you where all the pages of the book were set and how the motion moves from one landmark to another and how that works. By the way, the end here is in 3D, I think. Is that in 3D? Yeah, it's in 3D. I take my glasses off for a second to check. It's not a very effective 3D, but the end does sort of shimmer a little bit. I mean, there's no background to compare it against besides a plain black background. But yeah, so here's a map of Manhattan, and here's the page numbers, and there's all the places that he drew from. So he was definitely drawing from real life on this one, and it worked. Here's 3 exclamation points. Used 2 everywhere else, but here's 3. This is not in 3D, sadly. But I think the exclamation points kind of would ruin the 3D effect anyway. So, Scott McCloud's Destroy, a fun 3D comic. A fun comic in general. I mean, I would definitely buy... If I ever saw this at a comic convention in 2D, I'd probably buy it all over again. I don't know if the original is in color or not. It doesn't really matter. It would be fun to see this maybe with black ink instead of this slightly grayer, browner tone. It does come with 3D glasses, by the way. I don't think there's anything too fancy about the design of the 3D glasses on this one. Yeah, no, not really. Pretty plain as far as they come. But again, I don't collect those. I don't care. 3-dimensional Destroy. Pick it up and enjoy a comic that has as little plot as you can humanly imagine, but lots of fight.